Kedves 11-esek, íme akkor az összefoglalás második része, a náci Németország, Hitler tevékenysége és a német kihívás, amivel szembe kellett néznie Európának, és ami végül is a második világháborúba sodorta Európát. So revision, interwar period number 2. First we have to speak about Nazism. If you remember, it was given to you through a Prezi with Hitler. Of course, we should remember that in the First World War, this person was a great fighter. He was a brave soldier, and he wanted to be an artist, but he was not very successful in that. And after the war, he became in connection with the NSDAP, became the party leader. The National Socialist Workers' Party, German Workers' Party, is the NSDAP. We call it Nazi Party as an abbreviation, and they started to use the swastika as the symbol of the Nazi Party. Well, at the beginning of the 20s, they were not very strong, just like others. They had a military group, the SA, the Sturmabteilung, we call it stormtroopers, and just like other extreme parties like communists had their meetings, and well, the first time they did something memorable was in 1923, the beer hall putsch in Munich. So we are in Munich in a single city where Hitler and the gang wanted to take local power, and of course we call it the beer hall putsch because they organized everything in the Hofbraumunchen beer hall, and it was absolutely unsuccessful. They were arrested and they were sent to prison, where in the prison he created the final ideology and wrote the Mein Kampf, my struggle, meaning my struggle. And in this ideology, I told you everything. It's very important. Revise it in the Prezi, like living space theory, like the Aryan race theory, and the anti-Semite ideas, and everything is very important. I will not go into details now. It's written very well in the Prezi. As you see, in Germany, until the end of the 20s, until 29, where there was the serious Great Depression, we can say that extreme parties were not very strong. But as time passed and the crisis came, extreme parties down here and up there became stronger, and this purple part, as the civilian parties, the Weimar Republic basic parties, got smaller and got less and less supporters. So as you see, the brown is the Nazi party and the red is the Communist Party. In Germany, communists couldn't be very strong, but when the 1929 depression came, they got some more followers, but as you see, from almost nothing, the extreme right National Socialist Nazis were growing very hard, and in 1933 they won the elections. But as you see, in 32, if this is the whole society, only this small layer voted for a non-extreme party. Everyone else, here the Reds and all this, are all extreme parties. So actually people were very disappointed, lost their jobs, starved, so the growing extremes came. Of course, Hitler and the Nazis started the propaganda. They had absolutely tried to focus on their ideology, giving people the ideology in huge mass rallies, Hitler traveled in aeroplanes through the country trying to convince more and more people. He was a great speaker. This is one of his campaign airplane flight in Germany. And of course, propaganda together with Hitler, you're going to build a strong Germany with the Nazi party. You will be able to win. So, propaganda and elections brought absolute power. This is when the president Hindenburg is giving he appointed Hitler to be the Chancellor of Germany in 1933, and with democratic elections he became Chancellor. As you may remember, he became president when Hindenburg died, and he united these two offices soon. What he did, he put aside all political enemies. Now I forgot to introduce you the Nazi leaders. This is why I have some pictures about them. Hitler, I hope you remember. And here is Göring, here is Goebbels, and Rudolf Hess. Hermann Göring was the leader of the Luftwaffe. Luftwaffe is the Air Force of Germany. He was an aristocratic person. He loved arts and he collected arts. When Germany occupied the whole Europe, he collected the masterpieces and actually robbed out the museums of the countries they invaded. Mr. Joseph Goebbels was the Minister of Propaganda. He was an absolute fan of Hitler and the ideology, and he was very deeply anti-Semite. And when it was the end of fights in 1945, before the fall of Berlin, he committed suicide with his whole family, children and wife, and himself poisoned the whole family before they could have been taken. Goebbels was arrested by the Allied forces and he was tried at the Nuremberg trials after the war, but he also committed suicide in his jail in the prison. Rudolf Hess, the deputy of Hitler, and the second person in command, is an interesting guy because he survived the whole war. What happened? In 1941, he jumped in a plane and flew to Great Britain. We don't really know what was behind it. His plane crashed in Britain and he was captured, and maybe he wanted to start some negotiations with the British to talk about peace. We don't know. But as he was captured, he was put into the Tower prison. He was actually the last prisoner of the Tower in London. And after the war, he wanted to get back to political life. Interesting person. When he failed in the negotiations with the British, Hitler declared him as absolutely a mad person, and he said that if he gets back Rudolf Hess, he himself would kill him. And there is a fourth person I would like to mention, Heinrich Himmler. He was the leader of the special unit, the SS, which was actually the special forces of the German army, and also the Gestapo. This is the flag of the Gestapo. This is the secret police. He was the greatest killer machine. He can be made responsible for killing millions of people during the Second World War. Actually, really frightening person. As Hitler got power, the Enabling Act was put through, and by this he became the absolute ruler, and there was no political enemy anymore. They put aside everyone. They were taken to concentration camps, communists, left-wing people, or even conservatives, everyone was arrested. He created, the Nazis created their own groups. For example, for young people, the Hitlerjugend were just like pioneers and scouts. They had to learn not only practical things but also deep ideology. And at the end of the war, unfortunately, these young people, even children, were given guns to defend Berlin. Most of them died. They were actually the children of Hitler, the young people of Hitler. This is how we can translate it. The SA as a huge paramilitary unit in the picture, Hitler himself and the leader of the SA, this was Röhm, this huge unit which had 3 million members when Hitler got power, became really unsafe for Hitler, dangerous, because they had some different ideas about future. So on the Night of Long Knives in 34, he killed the leaders, and most of them, most of these SA soldiers were either killed, imprisoned, or were or became members of the German army or the SS or something like that. Okay, as the totalitarian dictatorship continued, of course, the Jews were in the ideology the greatest enemies of Germany. So this is why the Nuremberg laws were given out. And in this picture, SS soldiers are boycotting Jewish shops. So people shouldn't go in these shops. And finally, the Kristallnacht was a national pogrom where all the shop windows were broken and the shops owners were taken to concentration camps, and Jewish people were beaten in the streets. So that was from the second half of the 30s, 38, 39. And here the Jewish people had to wear the yellow star, the Star of David, on their clothes. Hitler at the same time wanted to show that Germany is a very good country with very rapid development, and this is why in 1936, organized the Olympic Games, which was a huge success. International sports people went there. Fun fact that Jesse Owens, the greatest Afro-American runner of all times, won the Olympic Games. As you see, the second was a German who is showing the sign, the respect of Hitler, and the others as well. But Jesse Owens won the Olympic Games, and of course, according to the racist Aryan race theory, he was an absolutely how do we call it? Not superior, but inferior, I'm sorry, person. So he shouldn't be able to win over the Aryans, but he did. And in this picture, interesting fact that when he got the gold medal, Hitler was not around. He didn't shake hands with the sportsman. As you see, as we know, Hitler also handled the crisis by starting economy, and of course with the same things like the New Deal. So he started public works programs. They built a lot of motorways. In this picture you see the motorways given to the people. This is the Autobahn of Germany even today. And it's an interesting picture when Hitler got to know the Volkswagen Beetle. Volkswagen means the car of the people. And the beetle, or Bogar Hatum, which you can see here, was made first during the time of Nazi Germany and became a symbol uh, of the Volkswagen brand. And of course, after the war, it is very popular even today. But it's first it was Hitler who sat in a car, in a beetle. Also started the rearmament of the country, and military industry also invested a lot. This is a picture from a factory where they created the tanks, but these are modern tanks, not like in the First World War. So military industry and this could make the whole country survive, and Hitler became a real hero. And of course, he started a foreign policy which challenged Europe because they started to act against the Versailles Peace Treaty. In this picture, actually everything is there. As you see, they first, of course, left the League of Nations and they didn't care about the peace treaty anymore. They started the rearmament of the country, and the whole Rhine region, the dotted lines, the dotted part is remilitarized by Hitler, so he brought their soldiers. And in the Saar region, this very small territory, there was the referendum in 35, and they voted for Hitler, so for Germany. So this is actually, without war, territories were taken by him, and it was a great success. And the European countries didn't want any kind of war or fight. And look at that. He started huge expenses spent on military industry. In this period, this is the GDPs of the country, and as you see, almost 1/4 of the country's GDP went to military expenses, just like the Soviet Union. Other countries didn't really care about military investments. And of course, uh, at that time, Italy was not really fond of Hitler and his ideas because they also wanted territories in the north. So in Stresa in 1935, there was a meeting, and here the European countries like Britain and France and Italy strengthened the Locarno Treaty, which is the western borders of Germany. So they wanted to protect France, actually, with this idea. But at the same time, Hitler did anti-Comintern pact he created, and as you see, he started in the following years, became friends with Benito Mussolini. Benito and Adolf became friends. So in the next year, in 36, Mussolini changed policy and became the ally of the Germans. And here in 1936, the Berlin-Rome Axis, this is why we call them Axis powers, an alliance was signed. And of course, Mussolini also joined the Anti-Comintern Pact, which was about a pact against the Soviet Union by Japan and Nazi Germany, and a lot of other countries joined actually, but I mentioned only Italy, Japan, and the Nazis. As the Second World War started, several countries joined, just like Hungary joined very soon this pact, but we have to speak about it later. Before the First World War, before the Second World War, we also mentioned the Spanish Civil War, which was a rehearsal of the Second World War. This is where first Germany and the German army could show itself, gave military help to Franco, and here the Soviets also applied intervention, helping with soldiers. And this bloody civil war actually destroyed a lot of beautiful towns like Guernica, painted by Picasso as well. But finally, Franco won and started a military dictatorship. I would like you to remember how Hitler continued getting territories. We are here now, and this is the Rhine region remilitarized. And as the next step in 38, he carried out the Anschluss. Anschluss means that he occupied the territory of Austria. There was a referendum with local Nazis, but actually he didn't wait until the results of the referendum. Hitler marched in Austria. There are also German-speaking territories here, as the red part shows. These are the Sudeten Germans. So Hitler wanted to get these German-speaking territories too from Czechoslovakia. But Czechoslovakia didn't want to give these territories. Here is Czechoslovakia's territory, and the yellow part is the Sudeten land. Well, in the Munich conference in 38, after the Anschluss, the great powers agreed that Czechoslovakia should give the Sudeten land to the Germans and also give other territories to Hungary, for example, those who wanted territories from Czechoslovakia. So the Munich conference actually was a kind of really dangerous period because the great powers didn't want to stop Hitler. They went there, so the French and the British leaders were present in Munich, and they acted like fools. Because after this conference, the Germans in 39 took over whole Czechoslovakian part up to Slovakia, this border, and they attached the whole thing to Germany. And Prague was taken by them, and all the military forces of Czechoslovakia was taken by Hitler. And it became a Czech-Moravian protectorate. And what happened to Slovakia? It became a kind of puppet government, a puppet state of the Nazis, because Nazi-friendly Slovakia was created. But at the same time, in 38, Hungary also got territories from here, and actually Europe was ready for a Second World War because Germany didn't want to stop. This is the end of our revision, part 2.